Hello, people, and welcome to another Ball of Passion preview with myself, Curran BoP, or just Curran, and with Chris and George. We are going to Selhurst Park, people, and I think we've had some interesting results under Mikel there. And an interesting lineup as well, apparently, with Tomiyasu starting. Apparently, and we will see if the FPL leaks. No Goldberg leaks today. Maybe Rice got shut up by Mikel today, but. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens, and I'm waiting for the lineup in 3 minutes now. But yeah, what are we talking, people? How are we feeling about this game?
I mean, I think it's a game that everybody looks towards for a benchmark of the season. We kind of had it for the first game of the season last year, but I feel like Palace away is a difficult game. Period. No matter that Zaha's not going to be there, and I think Olise out injured makes it kind of something of an easier game in general. But generally, Palace are a very strong team, especially in transition. I think their last game, who did they have in the middle of the park? I think it was like Lerma, Doucouré, and somebody else with I think Schlupp on the wings, along with IU. So I think that they're a team that isn't trusting their youth quite yet, which is a mistake me and Chris have hammered home quite a bit about, which makes it easier. But they are a team that are strong in the middle that do transition quite well. I don't think they have the same transition threat as they did last year, and I do think that no Olise and no Zaha is a huge blow to their potential. And I think that we might actually see a little bit more of a 4-5-1 block coming into this game. So it may not be the same transition focused Palace, but they've still got that potential. They've still got the athletes. They've still got the people that can cause you problems if you're not focused. So I think from an Arsenal perspective, I don't want to see the same static left-hand side. I mean, I'm sure as we're talking, we'll find a lineup and we'll be able to critique it. But as of last game, if you looked at, even though Kai Havertz was operating kind of at the tip of a diamond, which again, narcissistic pats all the way around, he still cheated left. And I think that when you do have Eddie Nketiah, Kai Havertz, and Martinelli along the same side, they run into the same zones. We talked about it in the post match. So I think we'll wait to see the lineup. But I mean, if we're feeling something very similar, then I believe that Martinelli will be isolated. I believe that he'll have to do a lot of work to kind of generate his own separation and space. But beyond that, I think that we're going to have to attack down Palace's left. I've always said during a Palace preview, when you look at Tyreek Mitchell and his ability to bomb on, that's going to be where the space is. So I'd like us to kind of work maybe left, draw everybody in, and then quick switches out to the right, which I'm hoping that we see a little bit more from Declan, because even with a similar lineup to last match, if we're going to play this 3-1-6 a little bit more with more teams, then we need to make sure that we up the tempo. We need to make sure that we're moving the ball at a pace that deserves that, and I think that we need to create more switches to the underloaded side, because I think a big part of the reason that our play grew a little bit static was because we weren't moving the ball with enough efficiency.
I think they're probably going to start Joe Ward, and I think that's great for Martinelli 1v1. The midfield with Lerma and Doucouré is very aggressive, so I think we probably see a lot of fouls out of them. If that's the same midfield that was there last week, it's probably out by now. But if we do see that type of midfield, I don't think 3-1-6 is probably the best way to go. They probably play 3 strikers again. Edouard Mateta, like Mateta came on. So I think we'll probably see that again. I think for them, that's detrimental to their attack. That they don't have enough threats on the wing when IU is starting, not Elise. So they don't really have the great final ball coming in. They don't have the option to cut in, so he's usually going to go down the line on his right foot. So that's a positive. Same as Schlupp on the left-hand side. He's going to go down the line as well. So on the wings, they're not very dynamic, which limits their threat. But in transition, they can kill a lot of teams. They've got good PMP with Doucouré and Lerma. Eze is obviously a great player, great ball carrier, great passer. So he's definitely their biggest threat. I think if you can try nullify his impact, nullify his touches, you really can control what Palace do, because without him, they don't really have enough thrust, I think, or just dynamism in general to create much against us. I'm not sure what our defense is yet, but when I see that, I'll probably be a lot more confident just knowing who's going up against who. But yeah, for me, I think it could be a pretty straightforward game.
I mean, we say that, and the lineup has come out, and it is as predicted by a lot of people. It's it's that. So Partey looks to be the right back in commas, with White, Saliba, Tomiyasu as the centre backs, and then Rice, Havertz, Odegaard, Saka, Martinelli, and Nketiah. So it is Gabriel dropped, and I mean, thoughts?
I think dropped is the wrong word, isn't it? But you just say that if they're taking out the lineup. But I think it's just you have to sacrifice one person. We definitely see him late in the game. We definitely see him come on. So yeah, I think the lineup was the same as last week. I didn't really want Tomiyasu to start left back. I never do. I guess Zinchenko's not 100%. That's why I think Zinchenko isn't 100% ready for this game. Yeah, but I'm okay with the lineup. I'm not going to be happy with Zinchenko. So not Zinchenko, Tomiyasu starting left back, and Martinelli Havertz, and then Nketiah again. So yeah.
Well, the issue is I think that we're going to have a lot of the issues that we had in the second half of Forest. So when you had Tomiyasu come in, his angles in terms of not opening up to the left meant that there was a lot more play recycled, and I'm going to expect Declan Rice to have to drop to try to progress play there because Tomiyasu isn't able to open up the left channel as well, and so I'm not a fan of it. I think that if you wanted to have the 1v1 capacity that Tomiyasu has, and you also wanted to have the aerial dual dominance, then I don't understand why Kiwior isn't the replacement, because at least you have that, but then you've got somebody that's fully capable of swapping in and out and accessing that left channel with his passing angles. So I think that I'm frustrated. Mags, I'm not going to hide my anger. I think it's ridiculous that we're having Tomiyasu as a conversation at fullback. I don't think it's proper. I don't agree that Gabriel off to Saudi is something. That's just people are getting very excited. It has nothing to do with that. If anything, it has to do a lot more with kind of the effect of Declan Rice and who is the anchor, and then the Zinchenko of it all. Because while I disagree, I don't think that Mikel Arteta likes what he saw of Gabriel from a central center back position.
That's
and I think that that is a big portion of the effect. The one thing that I would disagree with on that kind of assumption is, for me, Gabriel can perfectly perform the Tomiyasu role that is being done right now. Like you're not playing with a Gabriel central center back option with Tomiyasu. He's kind of the left center back in the channel, and so I don't understand what you're gaining, because you're not gaining anything defensively with Tomiyasu. I don't think you're gaining anything progression-wise with Tomiyasu either, by the way, because he's not able to open up the left in the same way Gabriel has. And, Gabriel has much better between the line passing from his left foot in there. The only thing that you might be talking about is, do you need Gabriel pushing into the channels in the midfield when you've got Declan Rice in midfield? That's the zone that he prefers. So at that point, you're basically just looking for a stopper. Then again, I still ask, who is the better stopper between Tomiyasu and Gabriel? And for me, especially defending channels, it would be Gabriel. Maybe Mikel's thinking that there isn't so much of a transition threat, because when you start to look at it, like in terms of who's on the right-hand side, it's basically just Andre Ayew. And so perhaps he's thinking
Jordan.
Jordan Ayew, sorry. But perhaps all he's thinking of is, if I just have somebody there, I can kind of commit more bodies forward in a sense. And Declan Rice isn't necessarily coming in to the pivot. It's more so him pushing up and allowing another option to operate between the lines. And I think we're going to see Kai Havertz much more in that second striker role. I am going to ask for a lot more fluidity kind of on the left-hand side. I don't know how we're going to do it. I still think it's an issue. And I hope that we see some players swap, as simple as that is. That would really fix things. And no, I'm not talking about Eddie Nketiah. I'm simply talking about Kai Havertz and Martin Odegaard. I think that a lot of those issues that we see in terms of some of the fluidity in the left-hand side could be very much fixed by having a Martin Odegaard pair on that side and letting Kai cheat to the right.
I think the main thing I think a lot of people are bringing up is is without Zinchenko there, you can't play Gabriel central centre back, because you need to leave a central centre back basically. And I think because of his angles and the way he receives and build, I think that's the way that Mikel's gone. I personally have been an advocate of a Gabriel left centre back left back role. I think that has been something that I think has been pushing for about 9-10 months now. I just think that this is. I agree with George. I think that the main thing is I prefer Gabriel in the Tomiyasu role that's being proposed today. I think that it would just be better. Like I genuinely do. And the other thing that I'm slightly concerned about is Nketiah and Havertz occupying the same zones. I think George already mentioned. I think that's the main thing for me. Will there be the ability for Havertz to just perform that Xhaka overlap that he used to do in the second half of last
But
season?
when you think about it, May, like here, I'll throw it back to you guys, and I'll throw it for a question because look at Eddie Nketiah. Which side of the pitch does he like to drop towards as a tendency?
Left.
Left. Why are we forcing that pathway continuously with multiple players that want to do it? Like if you're talking about a Kai Havertz overlap, his ball progression and angle bias is towards the right naturally. Why not
Correct.
facilitate both people's thing? The only issue is you're not facilitating Martin Odegaard in this potential switch. And he's good enough that you don't need to do it. But then at the same token, you actually force him to do the one thing that he's often criticized for, which is his verticality and his ability to release the ball. And when you close his angles, he's forced to do it. So at the very base, you're basically forcing people to do their natural instincts a lot more. And I think that we need to seriously think about how we're going to funnel Martinelli to get closer to goal, because I'm not a fan of having that boy touchline wide and not being able to influence games based on his own individual brilliance. Like it's not fair to them. It's not fair to these wingers that we're not supporting them in the way that other teams support their big wingers. And I think that we need to see something different. It has nothing to do with personnel, but it's about performing the roles. And if we're going to talk about a 3-4-3 diamond that everybody loves to want to lay claim to, when we bring up those roles, what? No, it's true. It is true. And you
lay claim to.
So
All right.
it is true. And then, but like on the fundamental basis, let's talk about what a diamond does. Let's not just say, let's perform a diamond. What are the roles within that diamond? And why do they have to work in terms of having a balance between a ball carrying progressor, in terms of understanding how do we support a winger, the differences between a Martinelli type winger and a Saka type winger, and then understanding how do we maintain control, because we didn't get transition control at moments against Forest. We didn't get the same fluidity that we got from the right-hand side, and we need to analyze why. That's basically it.
But on the diamond, how long, like throughout the game, we haven't seen a game fully in a diamond. But even before the subs, we're yet to see a game since Havertz was signed where the whole game we sit in a diamond or we allow him to rotate centrally for 90. Like there's gonna be points in the game where
well, that box, it'll depend, right, mate? Like it'll depend on central progression. The box, in terms of it being a typical box, is going to only occur as long as we're able to access central areas. If we can't, then you're going to switch towards a diamond to open up the wide areas. That's really what
I think again it's just going to be a lot on a 1v1 Saka, Mitchell, Martinelli, Ward. Like they're going to have to be disadvantaged 1v1, 2v1s, and just really create out of nothing. Like last week, I think Ori is worse than Ward 1v1. It's better, sorry, than Ward 1v1. So Martinelli probably has a bit easier task, but Ayew is a bit more diligent defensively than Brennan Johnson. So there probably will be a double on there. But I just think set pieces will be important to not concede from them the way we did last week, because I don't think there was big threat apart from like that 10-minute period where Forest decided that Elanga should come on, and they just became all of a sudden a very big physical threat with Awani and Chris Wood and Kouyaté. Palace don't offer that same threat off the bench. So do you guys think that in the end of the game, if it's still like, not even if it's close, but do you think Palace have the ability to change the game in that way, and we will face that danger on the counter-attack like we did in the 70th minute versus Forest?
It can definitely happen. Yeah, I mean, let's take a look at the lineup. The lineup is here. I've got the lineup here, and their bench. Let's take this comment off so we can see.
Well, it's just their youngster, albeit. If I'm really being fair, to be honest, it's just Rake Seiki that can offer kind of that transition threat. You know, their bench, I don't think offers somebody to change too much of the game. They've decided to go a classic 4-2-3-1. That's what we're seeing. It's a very simple way to play against. It's a very simple way to defend as well. You've got a 4-4-2, but I think when you're talking about how can Arsenal beat that lane, we've got to exploit Tyreek Mitchell. We've got to exploit Ward. Those are mismatches. And ironically, they're the best mismatches against our wingers. So it's really simple. No matter what tactical rhombus you want to include in the middle of the park, you've got to make sure that your wingers are getting 1v1 against these guys. And it's simple to do it. The one thing that I get a little bit annoyed with, I think, with the Tomiyasu change is that we're forcing that kind of that overlap. And I think that we're trying to get the space in behind Mitchell. And I think the goal is to get Saka inside a lot more in this game. That's the one thing. It annoys me because I think Gabriel can do the job, but it's really quite clear that by having Tomiyasu there, you're allowing Ben White a lot more of the freedom to overlap. And I think that having Thomas Partey operate in the right back role, which is basically an anchor, gives the solidity to allow for that overlap a lot more without worrying about a transition threat the other side with Tyreek Mitchell. But I don't think Jeffrey Schlupp, for example, is going to be somebody that you're going to be fearful of a transition threat. I'm sure he can do well. He can duel. He can get in amongst the midfield. But I don't think he's going to be able to hold the ball up in the same way that a Zaha could. And that threat was a lot more dual range because, between Tyreek Mitchell forcing Zaha inside, Zaha was the original outlet from the goalkeeper, from a long ball. And they don't have that right now. So, look, it'll be interesting. I still expect us to do well, and I still expect us to, at least with my prediction, come in. I think that we're going to do a 2-0. I think it'll be an easy game. I don't think it'll be difficult. And I think that Palace could really do with Eddie Nketiah. They should get on the phone immediately after the game. And I think that Eddie will show them kind of the difference.
They could just walk up and speak to our representatives. They'll be right there.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I think that they need to do that immediately. That's one of the first things I would do if I was Roy Hodgson. But I actually think that Eddie will have a very good game. He had a good game last game as well, and I think it's been bubbling over. He always steps up when he knows that he's the main man, and I just have a feeling that with everybody kind of doubting him, Eddie's going to have a really important game. And look, Saka is bubbling. So is Martinelli, but Saka's got something special. That was one of the best performances I've seen him have in a long time against Forest. So I think I'm going to go Eddie Nketiah goal and Saka goal for 2-0.
Okay, Chris, you can explain yours before I put the predictions up.
Oh, well, I was thinking 2-1, but then at the same time, I just don't see how Palace score. So I went 3-0. I just think Ward, Martinelli 1v1 for 90 minutes. Despite Martinelli being disadvantaged and having to carry the ball a lot further, I just think that's a big mismatch. And if Jefferson Lerma has to come over and cover, I just believe that Declan Rice probably gets his first goal for Arsenal today. I think a long shot is due from outside the box. So I think Declan Rice, Saka, and Eddie Nketiah. Martinelli gets an assist again. Ben White gets an assist as well. From just a pass to Saka, a good driving run, and he puts in the bottom corner. So 3-0 for me.
I mean, I've gone 2-0 as well. Just for context, I said I was also on the 2-1 train. I thought I got fooled by the fate lineup. Then it was 2-0. And then the fate lineup turned out to be not true, and I've still stuck to 2-0. I do think that with the threat we have going forward, I don't really see them having a threat in transition as much as I think it's being made out. I think 2-0 is a fairly decent prediction personally. I think the main thing for me is going to be the left side fluidity, as we mentioned all stream, and who's going to drop into space and who's going to give an option out wide as well as centrally. That's the main thing for me. Who's going to occupy that wide channel, and who's going to occupy the central channel? The middle channel, everyone's going to occupy. That's the problem. We need the spacing across the pitch. And the one thing that I find funny is when I look at that lineup, I don't think I'd ever, when we bought Tomiyasu, I don't think I'd ever see a lineup of Partey right back and Tomiyasu left back. I don't think that was the first thing that I thought of. I was like, when was that an option? That was never really an option, but it is now apparently an option. So, a couple of interesting points. I think Mikel's been on Sky Sports just recently saying that Declan is going to be, his position will depend on the relationships he builds in the midfield. So he could be a 6, could be an 8. The versatility he brings to the squad is going to be one of both. So one person we haven't brought up. This is a good point. We haven't brought up Trossard. I mean, Trossard has been, as we mentioned on the preseason show, one of our MVPs in the preseason. and I just think that he is going to need to get some minutes eventually. I've talked a lot about having the versatility to have players playing 20 to 25 games all season, and he's got to be someone that I think surely needs to get more minutes going into this next 5 games or next 10 games, because he's bubbling, as George mentioned on Saka. I think he's someone that as well needs to really get have some form of contribution in this team. And what thoughts on Trossard right now?
He's probably should be the most pissed person in the squad. He should be where Havertz is if we're cheating left. And if you're convinced on having Martin Odegaard stay on the right, Trossard is a much better fit for that role than Kai Havertz is, just period right now. But I think that we're trying to force Kai Havertz into form, unfortunately, and it's at the expense of Trossard, who has been the best player of preseason, has maintained his form, and has looked sparkling. Like, I mean, there's just no good reason that I can give you for letting him stay on the bench. He's done everything. In fact, I'll throw the question back to you guys. What more does Trossard have to do to start? Like, what else? What benchmark does he have to hit to start? He's getting goals and assists. He's affecting play in multiple thirds. He's making other people better. When he comes on the pitch, others become more fluid. So I'll throw it back to you guys. What do you think Trossard needs to do in order to start?
I'm not sure how much more he can do. He's getting goals and assists off the bench. He's keeping the ball very well. He's not losing the ball. He's being versatile, like being comfortable left wing striker, left centre mid. So I just think he has to just continue that until Arteta decides a change is needed, until it goes horribly wrong at one point. Then he probably won't make the change. I think the only thing he could have done is be worth 50 million before and not 20 mil, and probably be like Havertz. I always thought would always get the chance, just because the money we spent meant that he has to always, or you have to force him into the lineup, try as much as possible to play him and see if you can succeed. So I think we're going to move the team around as much as possible to fit Havertz and Nketiah in right now. I just don't know what happens maybe with the Champions League, Trossard plays a lot more, but even then, Trossard, Jesus, just week on week is just becoming for me, a bigger problem, because when he's fit, I don't know how he fits all of them and how he fits him and Nketiah and Havertz into the lineup. Does he keep doing this and just keep Gabriel, Trossard and Nketiah on the bench the whole season? I'm not sure he will do that. So I think he just needs to continue, really, and just be better than everyone when he comes on, really, because what much more can he do than do what he's been doing off the bench?
And the other thing I would suggest is look, I just don't think it's a case of what he's earned. Like, it's not a case that he's done anything that hasn't warranted him starting. I think it's a case of, as George mentioned, in terms of Havertz, I think we're trying to figure out what to do with him. And I don't particularly like that. And I think the same thing is going on with the backline as well with Gabriel. I think we're trying to push players into positions that I think really we want to try and, exacerbate what we have at central centre-back in a 3, rather than push our best left centre-back on the bench. And I think Mikel is I just don't know. Yeah, I know. I don't agree with it either. I don't really like it either. I feel like we're trying to do too many things in terms of forcing players into roles, and it's really annoying me, honestly. But it's just.
But you know what? At the end of the day, this is Mikel's ability to die on his sword. I'm sorry, like he's gonna want to do it. I think the frustrating part is, like I've said before, Kai Havertz in a year will work phenomenal. But these are the growing pains that we're going to have to suffer through. And I think it's at the expense of Trossard's playing time right now, which is not fair. It doesn't send the right message to the squad, because as a squad player, if you're looking at Trossard as a depth option, quote unquote, and you look at his benchmarks, his goals, what you have to achieve as an attacker, Trossard's hitting all of them. So what more does he have to do to start? And then you start to think, if I, like Reece Nelson, what do I have to do to get in to the team? if I'm doing what Trossard was doing, I still wouldn't get in the team. It's gonna create disharmony. So I just hope that Mikel becomes a little bit more fair in terms of the chances that he's giving. He's clearly been more flexible to versatility. It's been his big thing. All the interviews he talks about how he has to use the squad more. He recognizes that, and I'm glad because we criticized him for it last season. I'm glad that you recognize it. Now let's just make sure that we're balanced in terms of opportunity, but also balanced in terms of the profiles.
I just don't. The last thing for me is like this Tierney eradication from the squad. Just again doesn't make any sense because this really is the perfect time to play. And for me, to double up on Ward, like take away the IU, the dropping deep effect. If whoever we have would dominate Ward 1v1, Tierney, even Zinchenko, Martinelli, just have someone willing to be there, overlap and run at the left, the right back. Sorry, Tomiyasu won't do it. He won't overlap.
But he'll the thing is, he will try at times, but he's too
He
conservative.
won't. He doesn't want to.
He doesn't want to do it. Yeah,
run
exactly.
on the outside consistently. Like Ben White will be on the overlap a lot more. So yeah, I think he's just negatively hurting us. Like he's hampering the squad by forcing this Tomiyasu, like Tierney out of the squad and use. But it's just like I'm not sure what we can do.
Right. Yeah. The last thing I'm going to say is I just think that I just want this window to end now. I think it's just a case of get through this window because I think again people are going
Bro,
to.
you hate the window. I feel like every year when we talk about reviews and stuff, Curran's like, man, this window just needs to end.
I just
like,
hate
But at the start of it, he's so high for it. He really wants to go into transfers, and then it just starts to dwindle. And
no, because the thing is, I'll tell you what it is. Right at the beginning, I'm bored because there's no football. That's all it is, right? And then the signings happen. I'm just like, well, we're going to get the same rumors occurring again and again and again and again and again until the end of the window, and she's going to start pissing people off, and the people are going to put narratives on links and etc. etc. And it's this point, it's just like, just end it. It was like last year with the Neto stuff and the Douglas Luiz thing at the end of the season. It's just like I can't be asked now. Just let's get into some football. I don't want the football's back. I don't want to talk about transfers anymore. But yeah, just to confirm, these are the predictions. Everyone's pretty clear on their predictions this year. I think that it's going to be an interesting game. I think that I need to see what he's got planned. I want to see if he's having Tomiyasu as a third centre back in build. Are we doing a proper 3-4-3? Are we going for a 4-3-3 with Partey inverting? I mean, what's the actual plan? And then once we see a plan, and then we can review it, which we will do on the channel. Before I let George get into his spiel, I'm just going to say we did release Chris's vlog. He did mention my predictions on the Community Shield penalties. I'm very happy that he did that.
About your predictions.
No, they do. The people know. Okay, the people know the predictions are there. So if you do want to see Chris say, "Oh, 1-1 in penalties," Crowan predicted this. Then
why
go,
have you
then
remembered that?
because it's funny. So do go and check that out because it is a triumphant moment for me. But yeah, I'll let who's scoring.
I said this already, like way back in the stream, but Nketiah and Saka for me because my prediction.
I think Saka and Rice. Olise is not.
I'm going Saka and Rice as well. I think
Olise can't score. He's not in the squad.
He's not injured. He's injured. Yeah.
He's not in the squad. Can't score.
But yeah, do check out the vlog if you haven't already. If you're bored, before going into the game,
it's only 5 minutes.
It's only 5 minutes, and you get to see Chris screaming a lot. It's fun. But yeah, George, go on.
Guys, thanks so much for sticking with us. We hope you enjoyed the content. We're going to be back with some more videos for you in the near future. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe. You hit the bell for notifications to know when, in fact, we do upload. And yeah, I do hope you guys can check all the boys' socials down below. I'm at GeorgeV_AFC. Of course, Curran at Curran BOP. Chris at CKFTBL. And we are Ball Over Passion here on YouTube. Or at BOP Footy on the Twitter. So, guys, yeah, thank you so much. We appreciate every single one of you guys for engaging. If you guys could drop a like before we leave, then that would be excellent. But yeah, we hope to see you guys on the match review coming soon. So hope you guys have a good one. Peace.